The anguish and torment that seeps into every fiber of a parent whose child is missing is immeasurable. Every hour of silence is deafening. Every day is a nightmare. And all you can do is keep repeating the same prayer. Please, bring my child back to me. Please, bring my child back to me. Please, bring my child. These are 9-year-olds Johnny Hundley and Jimmy McQueary, and this is their story. We try to teach our children about the dangers of strangers. We teach them to be aware of their surroundings and how to protect themselves. Then we send them out to play, believing they'll return home safely. But no neighborhood is 100% safe, not even in 1964. Turn away for 1 second and tragedy can strike. 9-year-olds Johnny Hundley and Jimmy McQueary went out to play on a beautiful autumn day, and the two best friends were never seen again. Johnny and Jimmy would be 68 years old today. The mystery of their vanishing still haunts the small town of Fairfax, Ohio. In 1964, the town was described as a working man's suburb, and there was almost no crime to speak of among the 2,300 residents. So what could have happened to the two best friends on October 15, 1964? The warm autumn day started out just like any other. The two boys attended their third-grade classes at Fairfax School and then headed home. Classmates later reported that little Johnny Hundley talked about running away from home. If this information was accurate, it may have stemmed from a punishment doled out to his best friend Jimmy. The two boys had been playing around an open sewer line that was under construction the night before they went missing. Jimmy came home at around 9 p.m. with mud on his shoes. Mr. McQueary said he was not given a whipping, but I told him to come home right after school and stay in the house, or he would get a whipping. As we carefully examine the events surrounding the disappearance, we have to wonder if the boys were upset about the punishment and devised a plan to run away. The day the boys went missing, we know that Jimmy did as he was told and came home right after school. Johnny had come over to the McQueary's home, and Jimmy was seen leaving out of the back door to go off with his friend. The following information was given by a number of witnesses concerning the boys' final movements once they left the McQueary's home. The first stop was to Frisch's restaurant to settle a bill of $1.04. The weekend before the boys disappeared, they went to the restaurant and skipped out without paying the bill. Mrs. McQueary found out about the incident and gave Jimmy the money to pay the debt owed. A waitress at Frisch's remembered the boys coming in and paying the $1.04 that they owed. They also showed her a $20 bill that they were very excited about finding. A man reported to police that he saw the boys at Frisch's at 3:45 p.m. The man said that he was standing in the parking lot with a group of friends when the Hundley boy approached and bragged about finding some money. He went on to tell police that the Hundley boy was friendly and often spoke to persons in the lot. The man said he never saw the money, nor did the boy say where the money was found. The last sighting of the boys on the 15th was near an open trench where the sewer line was going in. Construction workers dumped a load of gravel in that same area sometime after 4 p.m., where the boys were last seen. As the hour grew late and the evening became colder, the families of the boys became concerned. They had not phoned home to say that they would be late, and Jimmy had broken his promise to not leave the house. So where were the boys? They had now been missing for over 4.5 hours. The McQuearys notified authorities, followed by a call from Mrs. Hundley at 8:30 p.m. To better understand why authorities weren't called hours earlier, let's take a look at the family dynamic of both boys. Johnny's mother, Gladys, was a widow. Johnny was one of 4 children, ranging in age from 3 to 20. Gladys worked as a waitress in a Cincinnati tavern to help make ends meet. The day Johnny went missing, Gladys was spending a few hours at a friend's house. Her 20-year-old daughter Bonnie was at home making dinner and looking after her siblings. At 8:30 p.m., Bonnie called her mother to let her know that Johnny hadn't come home. Gladys said she instantly felt something was wrong because Johnny always called home if he was going to be out late. The night was becoming colder, and Gladys knew her son was only wearing a short-sleeved shirt with no jacket. She immediately called police to report her child missing. Jimmy's parents, James and Matilda, both worked at night. Jimmy was one of 5 children. He had 2 older sisters and a younger and older brother. Jimmy was described as outgoing and friendly. Even though Jimmy and Johnny were known to stay out late, Jimmy's parents instinctively knew that this time was different. The McQuearys placed a call to police. Police Chief James Finnan was familiar with the boys, as they had been in some minor trouble before. The summer before they vanished, the 2 boys climbed through a window at the Fairfax school and were taken home by Chief Finnan. Another time, they and some other boys damaged some heavy building equipment. The parents involved paid for the damages. Normally, the chief would have thought that the mischievous boys were playing a harmless game of hide-and-seek. But Chief Finnan was still haunted by a missing child's case that occurred just 2 months prior. 4-year-old Debbie Dappin of Fairfax went missing on August 19th. She was found slain 2 days later under the porch of a neighbor's home. A 13-year-old boy who had lived next door confessed to killing the little girl and was sent to an institution. Now facing another case of 2 more missing children, Chief Finnan was filled with dread. All the logical places were searched, such as wooded areas, railroad tracks, vacant homes, and the Little Miami River where the boys were known to go fishing, but there was no trace of them. Bulletins were mailed out to 500 cities. Police departments throughout the country were given the following descriptions. Jimmy McQueary, 3 feet, 6 inches tall, weighing 65 pounds. Jimmy had blue eyes and light brown hair. He was wearing a blue and yellow horizontal striped shirt, brown jeans, and brown shoes. Johnny Hundley, 4 feet tall, weighing 75 pounds. Johnny had brown eyes, black hair, and an olive complexion. He was wearing a white t-shirt, black jeans, and white tennis shoes. The description of the boys produced a few promising leads. The boys were seen in the Bond Hill Railroad yards, located at Paddock Road and Tennessee Avenue. The sighting gave hope that the 2 best friends were still alive. John Clark, an Ohio Railroad inspector, told Chief Finnan that he saw 2 boys playing in freight cars at the yard on Friday morning, October 16th. Clark stated that he was certain that he saw the boys at 9:45 a.m. He said he spoke to the McQueary boy while the other boy sort of hid away in the background. Clark told Finnan, "This boy asked about where the cars were going, and I told him St. Louis. When I asked him where he lived, he told me it was none of my business." The next tip came in from a man who claimed he had seen two dirty boys washing up in a Lunken Airport restroom on Saturday, October 17th. A waitress at the Sky Galley restaurant said she saw the boys, one carrying a thermos bottle, playing outside for over 30 minutes. A busboy said that one of the boys was wearing a blue and yellow horizontal striped shirt, much like the one Johnny Hundley was last seen wearing. Police Chief Finnan directed a party of 24 searchers to search the hangars of the airport and the surrounding area, but no further clues were found. Finnan said, "Always, when we get there, the boys are gone." The last credible sighting reported was from a junkyard located on Kellogg Avenue. The witness stated that two boys fitting the description of Johnny and Jimmy tried to beg a dime to buy a soda. On Sunday, October 18th, a massive search of an open field between Fairfax and the Little Miami River was halted by a rainstorm and darkness. Every search was quickly becoming a dead end and a failure to produce the two small boys. In the days that followed, Chief Finnan asked construction workers to open a hole nearly 20 feet deep and 50 feet of a sewer line on the possibility that the boys may have fallen into them. Nothing was ever found. As the search intensified, some members of the boys' families were given polygraph tests. Textbooks were sent to the FBI in Washington for fingerprint checks for the intended purpose to match those of any bodies that may be found during the search, and over 30 schoolmates of the boys were questioned. The investigation into the vanishing of the two third graders seemed thorough enough, as most cases went during the 1960s. Two little boys that lived just 3 blocks apart in a small town should have been easy enough to track, and yet Chief Finnan admitted he was baffled. They simply disappeared, he said. Now let's move on to the theory phase of this case. There are 4 possibilities that may explain what happened to Jimmy and Johnny, each of them chilling and still shrouded in mystery. Theory 1 involves the disappearance of a priest just 2 months prior to the boys going missing. In Hamilton County, which lies within 5 miles of Fairfax, Reverend Orlando Jaquez was reported missing on August 7, 1964. The 30-year-old Franciscan priest had said that he was going fishing in the Miami River. Jaquez was last seen around 5 p.m. on August 5th at a boat launching harbor at 5001 Kellogg Avenue. When he failed to return to the seminary in Mount Healthy 2 days later, he was reported missing. A search of the area produced his rod and reel lying on the edge of a high bluff. His car was found in the harbor lot untouched. Even though it was reported that Reverend Jaquez was a good athlete and swimmer, divers were sent to the river to search for him. Efforts failed to turn up any signs of the priest. If we follow the sightings of the boys during the first 3 days they vanished, the last place they were seen was a junkyard near the area where Reverend Jaquez had gone fishing and disappeared. Could all 3 of them have fallen victim to a possible serial killer or human trafficker that was hunting for young boys? Although Jaquez was 30 years old, he was only 5 feet 7 inches tall and had a slender build. He may have been mistaken for someone much younger. Theory number 2. 3 years after the boys went missing, a Fairfax Marine stationed in San Diego, California, confessed to a minister that he killed both boys when he was 14. Gary Lee McKee was now 17 years old and AWOL from the Marines. He stated to Reverend William Leeds, "This had been bugging me." According to McKee, he and an accomplice killed the boys as a result of a feud that they had with Johnny Hundley's older brother. McKee said, that on October 15, 1964, he and his accomplice lured the 9-year-olds into a woods by promising them beer. He admitted stabbing one boy with a knife he purchased at a hardware store. The other boy ran, but the accomplice caught him and brought him back. McKee said he then stabbed the second boy fatally. He went on to say that he buried the bodies of the little boys in the wooded area where he killed them. McKee claimed that he buried the knife he used in the killings in his backyard. Finnan searched the areas McKee detailed in his confession and reported, "I have been unable to find any physical evidence to either refute or confirm McKee's statement." Reverend Leeds had this to say, "Gary is a homesick young boy. There's a possibility that because of his adjustment problems in the Marines and other emotional difficulties, that he may have latched on to this story and projected himself into it. We shouldn't necessarily take his story at face value." San Diego Homicide Chief Lieutenant Ed Stevens disagreed. "I gave him a number of chances to retract his statement. I told him there were many ways of getting out of the Marine service without making his statement, but he stuck with his story." McKee eventually recanted his confession, and his parents refused to allow a polygraph examination. Chief Finnan released McKee from police custody to be returned to his base to face charges of being AWOL. Finnan also found some discrepancies in McKee's statement. Gary's father stated that his son and the boy he implicated in the murders were never friends. Robert Hundley, older brother of missing Johnny, said there was no feud between himself and McKee. But were authorities too quick to discount McKee's confession? Parts of McKee's story may have been untrue, but let's not forget that San Diego police gave him every opportunity to change his statement. McKee never wavered about the killings until much later. Chief Finnan admitted that the area in which McKee said he buried the boys had been developed during the 3 years before the confession, making it almost impossible to locate the bodies. Theory number 3. The boys could have simply hopped a freight car heading out of state. Perhaps they were looking to have an adventure like those in storybooks. If this theory is correct, the possibilities of what could have befallen the boys is limitless. Could they have been too afraid to return home and somehow survived on the kindness of strangers? Or could the inquisitive boys have trusted the wrong person and met their demise? Theory number 4. Many people of Fairfax believe that the boys fell into one of the open trenches when the sewer lines were going in and were tragically buried alive. Even though the sites were excavated and produced no results, they continued to believe that somewhere under the town is the boys' final resting place. Theories mean nothing to the loved ones of the missing. They have conjured up every possible outcome, and they have prayed for deliverance. 3 years after Johnny Hundley and Jimmy McQueary went missing, their parents spoke out and had this to say: "You never stop looking at the faces of little boys when your son walks out of the house and into oblivion. You just keep hoping and believing that someday your boy will walk down the street and in the door." The words of Gladys Hundley are the ones I find most haunting. Gladys said she rarely ever slept. When exhaustion took over and she drifted off to sleep, she would often wake in a sudden panic, thinking she heard Johnny calling for her. Gladys said, "It's just my imagination running away with me." When she wasn't watching out the window for her son, she would wander up to his room. Johnny had made a sign on orange construction paper. He cut these words out and pasted them on. Think before temptation, as good is always near. These are 9-year-olds Johnny Hundley and Jimmy McQueary, and this is what they would look like today. If you have any information about the disappearance of these two boys, please call the Fairfax Police Department at 513-271-7250. Thank you for tuning in today. If you like our videos and would like to help our channel grow, please consider sharing this video with a friend. Also, if you aren't already subscribed to EOJ, please consider doing so. It's completely free, and it's the best way to stay in the loop about our channel and get notified when videos will be uploaded. As always, stay well and be safe. Until we see you again with another cold case, this has been Eye on Justice.